Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerome, and I'm a very grateful, very fortunate member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to thank the Secretary for inviting me out to come out and share my experience, strength, and hope. And above all, I want to thank my God for interceding for me June 6, 1973, when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous more dead than alive, suffering from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. See, something happens to me when I drink, and I don't ever want to forget what happens to me every time I take a drink. It doesn't matter if it's a good occasion, bad occasion, or just a fluke of the moment. Every single time I drink or take anything that affects me from the neck up or the neck down, it reaches the topmost part of my brain, that God-given entity, that self-preservation. And once it breaches the blood-brain barrier, it kills the well of care. And while I'm under influence, I can't care what happens to me, how it happens to me, and under what circumstances it happens to me. And see, the thing about it was, I operated in a world of ignorance and misunderstanding, because I had no idea what my dilemma was until I came to this fellowship and I heard some people share what the disease of alcoholism entails and what it encompasses. And I never forget, I heard that young man get up at the podium, somewhat detoxing, because see, I'm not a has-been, I'm a never was. And alcohol took me to a point in life where getting up just didn't cross my mind. And he explained that disease. He said it's an allergy of the body, coupled with an obsession of the mind, activated by a compulsion that once I take a drink, I can't predict what happens to me, how it happens to me, and under what circumstances it happens to me. And that I can't recover unless I address the spiritual malady, and then I straighten up mentally and emotionally. And he lost me. But I heard him so clear when he said that one phrase, one is too many and 1,000 ain't enough. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. I knew exactly that dilemma that I had always been confronted with. That first one. Because see, sometimes my drinking would create so much havoc and so much pain and so much turmoil, I would be forced to stop and look at it. And I'd go 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 55 seconds on my own selfishness and self-centeredness. In that last 5 seconds, I say 2 tears in a bucket and yuck it, and I'll be gone. Because see, I can't bring to my conscious mind with sufficient force the humiliation and degradation of a week ago. It's hazy and readily supplanted with that threadbare idea that this time I'm going to do it different. I could handle it. And once I do that, I'd say, dang, why did I get started? Why did I blow it? And then I tell myself that comforting, soothing thought. Oh, well, you can get sober anytime you want to. You might as well go on and get good and drunk now. And I wouldn't think about the consequences. Because, see, something happens to me because if I just address the physical aspect of my illness, I didn't stop drinking for a lot of reasons, physically. But see, if I don't address that emotional and mental and spiritual aspect of my illness, One day, I'm going to be confronted with that dilemma. Should I or shouldn't I? And why not? Because of my own self, I have no effective defense against that first drink. My defense must come from a power much greater than myself. And that's why I'm really thankful and grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. But I also like to tell you why I'm fortunate. Because, see, I came in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was 26 years old. I'm talking about broke, busted, and couldn't be trusted. Sitting in the back, the last one in, and the first one out. And I came to scoff. I came to just look over this thing, and I almost missed it by that much. And I am inclined to believe it had to be an act of divine providence that saved me, because I couldn't have saved myself. Something happened, nothing shorter than a wholesale miracle. Because, see, I was into that state of mind and body. Well, I was just going to look and see. It's like every day I'd get up, and like I'm shooting craps and say, let's see if you can crap out today, Jerome. And that's how I lived my life, because I was going to stagger along to a tragic and violent young death as a result of chronic acute alcoholism. And I grew up right in this city, South Central LA, which is not too far from here. And I started drinking at age 16. My father and my mom, I described them as the working poor. There were a lot of us kids there, and I ain't gonna go into tell you how many. It was a lot of us there. And my old man's claim to fame was that it was a roof over our head, and his name was on the deed, there was food on the table, and he was some spiritual values that was transmitted into that home. My old man didn't bust my mom in the lip every Friday and squander the paycheck. Alcohol was not a part of our menu. But in the summer of 1962, my old man gave me 5 crisp $1 bills to go hear Hunter Hancock spin some records up at Jefferson High School. Him and old Marge was going to have this record hop. They called it Sports Night. And I was getting ready to go to high school, and I was looking forward to going to this dance. It was high on my agenda, because basically I'm an introverted person, like a little old chair or a piano that don't move unless someone move it or play it. And I had always wanted to be on and in living color. And 4 of my best friends, who my old man let me associated with, because he didn't let us run around with no juvenile delinquents that stole tail lights off of 59 Cadillacs and hubcaps. We didn't sing Blue Moon on the street. When it was dusk, I had to be home. And don't let, like some things happen today, you know, one of you kids come home and say, my friend gave it to me, I found it. My old man didn't play that. He said, well, take me to where you found it and let me talk to your friend. He gave me those 5 crisp $1 bills, and me and my buddies, we was going up to this high school dance, and someone in the crowd said, there's old Joe the wino. Let's proposition old Joe to get us something to drink so we can enhance this evening tonight while we go to this dance. Of course, he didn't say it like that, but it seemed like a good idea. So we chipped in our dollar bills, and we got old Joe to get us something to drink. Old Joe went and got us his drink because we didn't have the knowledge to ask for anything particular. Old Joe got us some Excello white port right off the top of the shelf with dust in the bottle. And I assure you it wasn't a grape in it, it was all chemical. And he got us young men in the alley and gave us an education about the art of connoisseuring of fine wine. He said, this is some powerful stuff, you need to get you some strawberry Kool-Aid to cut it with. See, unbeknownst to me, I was going to be introduced to the original wine cooler. And I'm talking about us 4 guys, we passed that bottle around about 4 or 5 times because no one would break the seal on that bottle of wine and drink it, out of fear of the other ones chickening out. We pulled straws and we threw rocks, and we decided that whoever was the oldest in the crowd would take a swig off of that wine, because none of us could be born on the same day, and I was nominated. And I took a deep swig of that wine, and I could remember it vividly as if it was yesterday. It was the most foulest stuff I had ever tasted in my life. It was hot, nasty, and bitter. But when I got it into my chest cavity, I said, you better not throw it up, because it'd be a reflection on your manhood. And I held it down, and I got that warm sensation. You know, that all-comforting feeling. And all of a sudden, I got an instantaneous rush that went right to the top of my head. And I snapped my fingers. I said, where's this stuff been all my life? Because all those childhood fears, all those insecurity, all that no-name pain I had walked around with for those 16 years was vanished. And all of a sudden, I knew three things. I knew I could act, I knew I could perform, and I knew it didn't matter what anybody thought about it. And all of a sudden, my Marlboros came out of my sock, and I became Marlboro Man. No longer did I walk like I had a stick up my behind. I was cool, and I could lean with it. Got up to that dance, was belligerent, intoxicated, and obnoxious, and they said that you can't come here in this frame of mind. I said, I've been waiting 3 years. And I'm going to insist on seeing whoever's in charge so I could go to this dance. They say, well, step to the side, young man. We'll have somebody to attend to you. And I stepped there leaning up, holding up the wall, and they had called the police. And I was so thankful I had my good friends with me. They got me out of that. They took me off the campus out the back way. And someone said that magic word that separates me from a so-called social drinker, problem drinker, into a chronic acute alcoholism. He said, that's all right about that dance. Let's get some more wine. And I said, no, it ain't gonna be that way. You get yours and I'll get mine. There ain't no more sharing. See, that's what makes me different from those people that could drink and take it or leave it. I drink for the effect. And if one will do it, two will do it better. And I found out that significant and crucial ingredient later on that night. My good buddies, they propped me up on my old man's front door, rung the doorbell, and left. And I had this older brother. You know, the psychiatrists and psychologists call it a sibling rivalry. If you had any experience with an older brother, you know how they mistreat you and misuse you. And I stumbled in, and he said, well, look at the little chump. He's drunk. And that wine told me tonight is tonight. I'm talking about it created such a commotion in the living room. I fell on the coffee table, broke it, and my mom came in there and says, I need to, conceal this here catastrophe, because if the real man see the little man in the real man's house drunk, it will be murder and mayhem. And of course, that wine would not let me leave. And my old man came to the living room. He's 170 pounds, about 5'10", and he leaped across the room and snatched all 90 pounds of me up. And I found out that fourth thing. He started wailing upside my head, and didn't a tear drop. And I said, you are Marlboro Man. And I knew that. I could act, I could perform, and didn't matter what anybody think about it, and now I don't feel no pain. My faith was sealed. I said, richer or for poor, better or worse, to death do us part, through sickness and health. I wasn't going to give up that wine for nothing, because it held out the promise that I would be okay no matter what went down. And it didn't matter about the consequences. And every chance I got, I got drunk, and every chance my old man caught me, he'd punch me out. And at 18, about 2 weeks out of high school, he sit me down at the kitchen table. He said, you ain't gonna be nothing, you're not worth salt going bread, and that I pay the utilities and the bills here, and you're not going along with my program. He said, there's the door, let it hit you where the good Lord split you, and don't let it hit you on the way out. And being egotistical, always trying to get by on my potential, self-centered, I told him what to do with his house, his food, his lights, and I got a Safeway paper sack folded it up neatly, and put my three-piece suit from Zyler's and Zyler, blue on blue pinstripe. And I went to my chosen profession of being a hustler. And I tell you, it was pathetic. Still in the newspapers in front of the Greyhound bus station and sell them on Spring Street like I had a paper route. And I'm talking about I drank to the point where I was sleeping in old parked cars, under people's doorways, selling whole blood every 58 days and plasma twice a week. And I'd be on them streets for days. And at this time, the LAPD used to have a wagon before they ruled that cruel and unusual punishment. Somebody took them to the Supreme Court. And they would drive up and say, "Get in, Jerome." And I get in, and you know you're young, and you kind of somewhat got yourself together, and you see these old crusty winos, seasoned, and you got you a position, and you'll say, "Well, if I ever get like that, I'll straighten up and fly right and take care of business." But there came a day, I was right there on the floor too. And I'd be out on those streets, and it'd be pathetic. And you know you get sick. And I'd be sick, sometimes with no shirt, no shoes on, or a coat too long to be short and too short to be long, looking like death sucking a soda cracker. I'd soar up in the neighborhood. See, I'm Jerome Jr., and I would just tear my old man up. That would just tear him up. I know they would be worried. Where is he? What is he doing? Calling hospitals. And I show up in the neighborhood, just pop up, you know, like I've been on a long trip somewhere. I wouldn't go directly home. But I'd be in the vicinity. And one of my little sisters would be on their way to school. And I'd get me a strategic location. I know I'm going to run into one of them. And I say, "Hey, Debbie." And she wouldn't even know her own brother. And she'd ease over there and kind of look. And then she kind of recognized some resemblance of her brother. And she said, "What you want?" I said, "Deborah, you got 50 cents so I could get me something to eat?" And she'd give up her lunch money, whatever she had, and I'd just go and drink me some more wine and terrorize the neighbors, harass them. And that would just get back to my father, and my father would send one of my brothers, one of my sisters to tell me to come on home. And we'll sit at that kitchen table, and we'll have that father to son talk. And he would be telling me. And he would have all the love and compassion a father could have under circumstances like that. And I'd be serious in a heart attack. I say, "Dad, I'm going to straighten up, fly right, turn over a new leaf, and take care of business. I'm going to check in school, get me a job." And I'd straighten up and I'll go get me a job. Take me a test. I was always good at tests, but I just was never consistent. And I go up there and I get me a job, check in the school, and taking care of business. And my old man be sitting by and look at my son. He's not hanging out there smoking dope and acting crazy anymore. And I'll be laughing in the back of my head because I know that day is going to come. I just don't know when. And it would come. And I get arrested for some old stupid stuff like felonious assault on a police officer, you know, riding on top of their police car, getting beaten almost into unconsciousness. You know, I don't know how many times I've been arrested for plain, ordinary, common drunkenness. Assault on police officers. And my people and them, they got me into some treatment. They took me over here to this here mental health facility, and I went in there serious. Talked with the psychiatrist and them to get myself together. And the next day, I ran into this guy with some of those old funny-looking pharmaceutical medication. You know, Seconal, Tuinal, anything at all, and there goes my treatment program. And they phased me out of their program like it was a job. And in 1972, I showed up in Unit 3. I ain't got time to go into the Unit 3 story. That's the county hospital psycho ward, 72-hour lockdown, whole Thorazine shuffle in the middle reel twist. I ain't got time to go into that. But that's where this lady said, "Mr. Scott, your emotional problems would probably straighten up if you dealt with your alcoholism." And she recommended that I go to this alcoholism treatment program up at Camarillo. And of course, my dad thought I was being committed to the mental institution. He said, no, I keep all my crazy kids here with me. But him and my mom and my brothers and sisters, they got into a confrontation, or they outvoted him, and they drove me on up there in 3 cars. All my little nieces and nephews were standing in the driveway, and as I was going off to Camarillo in the car, all my little nieces is hollering, bye, Uncle Sonny, bye, going on the trip of my life. And that's where I attended my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, under duress. And I will always be thankful for them people who do H&I work. And I had met this fine little old cute black girl on the ward. Boy meets girl on the Nut House campus and falls in love. She enticed me to go to them meetings, and I call her a bunch of names that is not appropriate to say from the podium. But out of lust and loneliness, I went to that meeting. Didn't hear a thing, got lost in the preamble. And after I got out of there, I had got myself drunk, and she called me up and took me to this meeting where I met my sponsor. And of course, I wanted her to be my sponsor. She said, I can't help you, Jerome. I could barely help myself. And she dropped me like a hot potato. So every now and then, if Star Trek wasn't on or the Lakers wasn't playing, I'll go to this meeting. The last one in and the first one out. And one particular Sunday, I got there early and I met my sponsor. He's one of those people that hang around at the door looking for newcomers. He seek them out, and he stuck out his hand, and he knew I was new right off the bat. He says, hi, my name is Jack. And he says, Jack K is my name and sobriety is my game. Call anytime. And the way he had my hand, he wouldn't let go. So I got real smart. I say Hollywood and Wilshire. Yeah, I know what the deal is with him. And he gave me his card. And I went in my seat and says, Jack K is my name and sobriety is my game. Call anytime. I said, he's a poet too. And for 10 months on an infrequent basis when I make that meeting, I don't matter if it was at the coffee break, if he was with his wife, with other guys, his sponsor, his friends, he never failed to stop and come over there and talk to me. He never failed to remember my name. And he'd always ask me, Jerome, how you doing? And I looked new, smelled new, everything about me new. And I'll come with that pronouncement, yeah, I'm fine. I was lying, I needed some help bad. And he'd give me that card. And I had to go back up there to Camarillo. That's why I'm known around some circles as a Camarillo Nut House rethread. And I was up there 67 days. And it was another black kid from South Central LA had one of Jack's cards. And you know a newcomer don't go to the state hospital with enough money to call his sponsor. You know it had to be a collect call. And he called Jack. He said, Jack, I'm not crazy. Will you come and pick me up and take me to some AA meetings? Jack left his plush home in West Hollywood, drove all the way up there to Ventura County, and they were leaving. And I was sitting in the day room waiting on my vitamin yeast pills, reading the Los Angeles Times business section if I had some stocks or bonds. Well, I wasn't always a tramp. I had worked for IBM, and I had bought one share of IBM stock in the employee purchasing plan, and I wanted to see if it had split 4 years later. And Jack eased around the paper because he spotted me. You know how you spot one of them AA members in the market, and they got some booze in the cart, you know. It ain't that you trying to spy on anybody, but you have some of the biggest grin. And it's an understanding grin if you're a newcomer, and he come around the paper with that big grin, and he says, Jerome, what are you doing here? I jumped up and said, dang, he done followed me to the nut house too. Because I was shocked. Because see, I know I'm gonna have to leave this nut house, and I know I can't make it, and I'm terrified and I'm afraid. Because I know what's waiting out there for me. Me is waiting out there for me because I can't function. And plus, I don't know what my dilemma is. And I had enough honesty that day to tell that man I didn't know. I said, I don't know. And he told me something that's still with me today. And it's the most important thing I like to share with the newcomer here. Because it ain't necessary for you to sleep in old parked cars and under people's doorways. It ain't no requirement. He told me, he said, Jerome, because he knew I didn't know. And plus, I knew he wasn't judging me. I knew he wasn't looking down on me. I know he was looking at me with the love and compassion of one human being for another, and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt he would do anything humanly possible to help me overcome my dilemma. Because there's something about an alcoholic when he knows someone is talking down to him or being judgmental or going to preach at him. He was talking to me that language of the heart. And I could look into his eyes and see the compassion that he had for me, the empathy. He knew where I was when I told him I didn't know what was wrong. He said, Jerome, if you follow what I follow and do what I do, you'll never have to drink as long as you live. You won't ever have to drink even if life dictates that you drink. And you won't ever have to come to a place like this unless you want to. That was a threefold promise. He told me I could find a way to live in this crazy, mixed up, totally unfair world and not drink. But most important of all, he told me if I did what he did when life dictated it, that I kill the pain and not think of the consequences, I could walk through those times. Those were the most difficult times for me. That 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 55 seconds. In that last 5 seconds, when I should be leaning on some power much greater than myself instead of me, I give up 5 seconds before the miracle happens. And I always go and do what I have to do, no matter what the consequences. And he told me, he says, come on and go with me and Raymond. With all that I knew and all that I felt that day, I have something formidable that will keep me from getting well. It is more formidable than any resentment, any hatred, any prejudice I ever have, and that's my pride. My pride will come in and justify and rationalize almost anything. And what it was telling me that day, you better not even try to get up, Jerome. You ain't nothing, you ain't gonna be nothing, so why waste this man's time? And plus, you have $67 in patient accounts. You need that money to get drunk with. See, because I didn't know how to bury my pride, because my pride was burying me. And I got out of that place and I got drunk, terrorized my family. They had me arrested twice in 1 week. That last time they had me arrested, thank God they had me arrested, because I had chased my aunt across the street, and just as she went into her door, I harked and spit at her. And she went and got her snub-nosed 38, and she was getting ready to spit back at her nephew. And the police took me to jail, and I came to, passed out by the commode. Everybody had done their business, and I wasn't a pretty sight. But I was thinking about all those meetings I had been to, how many times I had shortchanged myself. And I made a commitment with that day to Jerome, and that was the 5th of June. I said, if I can get out of this jail, I'm going to go and make me a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'll never forget that Friday night. I walked from Buchette Street down to 96th and Figueroa, South Central LA in the war zone. And my life began. I'm talking about those people loved me back to life. And Jack is still my sponsor. And the things that has transpired in the past 20 years, I could never tell you what Alcoholics Anonymous has did for me. But just a synopsis, my psychiatrist and therapist had told me their diagnosis was that I would suffer from episodes of schizophrenia and deep-seated neurosis, that I'd be in some institution, some boarding care home for the rest of my life, and on some medication. And today I walk as a free man in this here crazy, mixed up, totally unfair world, walking in my own personal brand of dignity. And I only lay that to the fact that they have introduced me to a power that has not only solved my drinking problem, But every problem that I have, provided that I trust in God and clean house, I've gotten well right here in Alcoholics Anonymous. Someone who didn't have any viable skills, could not be self-supporting, this program showed me how to walk and how to talk and how to go about trying to make it a way in this world for me. And just recently, they contracted out my job. And my boss had been telling me, every time you go for one of those performance evaluations, I have the best boss in the world. She don't like to be called boss, but she's the best one in the world. She would say, Jerome, you know what? You'd be an asset to our program. You have the skills, the knowledge, but it'd even be more if you went and got your degree. And I would ask her, I said, well, is the post office going to pay for it? And she would say, no. Well, I'm not going then. And we did this for about 3 years. And about last year, about August, about June, we had my performance evaluation. She gave me an outstanding. And then she asked me that same question. She says, Jerome, you'll be an asset to the program if you go and get your degree. And I said, is the post office going to pay for it? And she said, no. And then she added something onto it. She says, do you want your job? And I said, well, I'll go get me a degree then. And what it was fear. Because I had started so many times before, and some problem over here, some issue over here, something, and then I'd stop. And then plus they was contracting the job out anyway, and I had decided to go to school, so I called my sponsor. I said, well, it don't make any sense going to school now. They didn't contracted it out anyway. He said, well, Jerome, you would feel better if you did something. So I stayed. I looked for every reason to get out of that, every reason possible. And lo and behold, I stayed in the program, and I finished my first year, and they put me on the dean's list. Just blew me away, sent me a letter saying, dear scholar. And that there was a miracle for me. I go 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 55 seconds, and I quit. This program has shown me how to find the power to go through those last 5 seconds. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. It has introduced me to a God that solves all my problems. And I've healed those relationships with my parents. Me and my dad, before he passed away, I was 6 years sober. And he had developed cancer of the bladder and emphysema. And he was on dialysis machines. And I would go pick up my dad and take him to his dialysis machine and take him to his doctor. And it got so bad, the pain of the cancer it was nothing they could do. And they was on all this heavy narcotics to kill the pain, and it couldn't kill it. And my mom would give him his medication on time, and he would just go off like she wasn't taking care of him. She would call me up on my job, talking about, your mom ain't taking care of me. She ain't doing this. In the middle of the night, I'd get up out of my bed, he'd call me. And I'd go over there and sit with my dad like he used to sit with me when I would be going into DTs in his house, audio and visual. And he'd be down there rocking his son, talking about my baby, what's wrong? I was able to repay that back, is to go over there and be there for him. Alcoholics Anonymous did that for me, that I could go over there and sit with him and talk with him and comfort him just like he comforted me. And I could tell him what you people were doing for me. You know, he never got to come and see me take a cake, but when I got my first car in AA, my first car for my first job, he co-signed for me. And he wouldn't co-sign for a pair of roller skates for me. And I didn't know where else to take him but down to AA meeting. And I took him down there to that AA meeting. And he was so proud of his son, you know. Those kind of things that I will always carry with me. And you know, it ain't always just been, you know, the happiest part. You know, it's been a trudge. But you know, I would not trade my worst day sober for my best day drunk. Because see, my life has a sense of purpose and direction today. It's because I trust in this God. And I know my time is just about up, but I have one more commitment, is to share with you where I found my God up in Camarillo State Hospital. I didn't know it at the time, but this Jesuit priest, he helped me to find God. He talked with me and he comforted me. And he told me, after being belligerent, he says, God is whatever he is to you. And he gave me this here verse. I don't know where it's from. He said it looked like a psalm to me, but I'm going to share it with you, and I want to thank the secretary for having me here. And it's, oh, how constant is your precious love. I seek protection under the comforts of your wings, for you have made this day. Let me rejoice and be glad in it, for today is the first day of my life, for the rest of my life, one day at a time. And thank you, dear God, just for this day. May you lead and may you guide me in this prosperous new life. And may I never forget, during the sunshine of my life, during the storms of my life, and after the rains of my life, there is peace with you, dear God, always and forever. And all praise to the loving, living God, to whom all praise is due. I want to thank you, Alcoholics Anonymous, not only for my sobriety, but for another day of sanity.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.